There are so many things that elevate our sense of anxiety and worry. The world is on fire, both figuratively and literally. The west coast of our country is battling mega fires. There's civil unrest affecting cities all over our nation, and political disagreements are fracturing families and friendships. Not to mention that we're in a once-in-a-century pandemic that has completely altered our lives. I too am not immune to these feelings of being overwhelmed. There have been many times over the last few months that I felt like screaming, shouting, running away, or shutting down. There are so many things in our lives right now that we don't have the power to control, and that is ever so hard to accept. We are in the pit. We feel the despair described by the Psalms or by the prophet Yonah. And despite this darkness, I'm here to tell you there is hope. In my own struggle with making sense of the enormity of these challenges, I turned to the writings of a colleague, Rabbi Eli Kaplan Spitz. Rabbi Spitz wrote a book titled Healing from Despair, Choosing Wholeness in a Broken World. In his book, Rabbi Spitz offers some strategies to use our brokenness. The first message I want to share is you are not alone. None of us are alone. We are a wonderful community, and we are present for one another. There's a folktale. A woman goes to see her rabbi. She's at her wit's end. Her husband lost his job, her hours were cut back, her son can't find work, and his long-term relationship just ended. What is she to do with tsuris, her troubles? The rabbi tells her, go and bake a strudel. And then give it to your neighbor who doesn't have any tsuris, who doesn't have any worries. The next week, the woman returns to the rabbi with a fresh strudel. Yes. So, who'd you give the strudel to? She said, oh, Rabbi, no one. But upon hearing about everyone's struggles and sharing my own, we were able to bond. So I baked a fresh strudel for you to say thank you. I want all of you who are hearing me today, members of our congregation, guests, friends and family, and future friends I have yet to meet, in person that is. I am always happy to listen in a spiritual context, or if you just need a sympathetic ear. I also encourage all who need to seek the assistance of a mental health professional. I am personally so thankful for my therapist who enables me to face each day. Rabbi Spitz shared his own stories of struggle with despair and that of biblical figures and historic figures to illustrate that we can use our pain to aid each other. Our suffering enables us to empathize with others. We can use our knowledge of pain to offer accompaniment. Presence is one of the greatest gifts we can offer. All we need to do is to listen without judgment or solution. That second part's a little harder. It's not trying to fix the problem of the other person, it's just listen to it. If we travel together, we can make it through the darkness. Another strategy to deal with our broken world is to stop and reframe. The world is broken. This is not new. The world has been broken since creation. In Jewish mysticism, as articulated by Rabbi Isaac Luria, at the time of creation, God first contracted unto God's self, this is called tzimtzum, to create space for creation. God then made vessels to contain God's light. And as the Holy One created the world, God's light was poured into these vessels. However, the vessels could not contain the divine energy and were shattered. What resulted is that all of creation has divine sparks embedded inside, from the rocks and the trees to each one of us. Our job as humanity is to aid God in repairing the world. When we do mitzvot, both ritual and interpersonal, and acts of kindness, we help these divine sparks return to God. This is the basis of the idea of tikkun olam, repair of the world. What is helpful from this understanding is that seeing the world as broken is not wrong. And with the broken is also the whole. What I love about the lesson of tikkun olam is that we don't repair the world in one grand gesture. Rather, it's done in parts, action by action, step by step. We find ways of revealing more divine sparks into the world. When we're faced with a moment of deep pain or anguish, let us try to find one small thing that we know is good in that situation. Look for that one pinprick of light. Then, as we seek it out, we can look for other points of light. Together, they will build up and help us dispel the darkness. Another strategy is to forgive ourselves and others. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or ignoring. Also, dealing with these hurts takes time. We need to be compassionate to ourselves. I am heartened when I look to the Torah and see that God gets frustrated too. Many times, in fact. For example, God is ready to wipe out the Israelites during the sin of the golden calf, but the Eternal One listens to Moses, sees the good in Moses, and reframes. I know that there is good in this world. Part of coping with the challenges of today is to practice acceptance. The broken is part of the whole. Our machzor is called lev shalem, which means a whole heart. In order to be wholehearted, we need to accept the good and the bad. There are things outside of our control. Despite this, we can still choose to find the light and seek it out. Traditionally, the Torah can be understood on 4 levels: pshat, remez, drash, and sod. Pshat, which means simple, is the plain meaning. Remez, which means hint, is something that is alluded to. Drash, which means kind of the understanding, is the homiletic meaning. And sod, which literally means secret, is the esoteric meaning. The first letter of these 4 words spells out in Hebrew the word for paradise, pardes. Rabbi Spitz offers a model that uses these 4 levels to address a crisis. And I think it's beautiful to understand that our life experiences are just as important of a holy text as the Torah. Here's the framework. Pshat, action or doing. Remez, emotion. Drash, intellect. And sod, intuition. We need to analyze the situations we are in and how we can address them on these different levels. What are the actions or things that we need to address? What is going on right now? How does it make us feel? What do we think about it in our heads and in our gut? Then we can take our feelings, build upon them to add light into the world. All of us have strengths that are manifest even in our times of trouble and despair. We can work through the pain. I pray for all of us to find the strength to greet each new day. Gamar Chatima Tova.